Here's our poll. G is winning at the moment, which is this name, Oliver, which I actually think is really perfect for him. You know why? Because it's the shape of an eye. That's why. Oh, for Oliver. And yeah, it's a cool name. So are we zoomed? Yeah, we're on 100%. I'm going to do a print screen of that poll in a couple of minutes. I don't think I would be shocked now if another one catches up with G. So I'll give you guys a minute or two. Well, a minute maybe. But this is probably going to be the winner now. Okay, so what does everybody think of this name? It seems you guys liked it because it got 10 votes anyway. And I haven't even voted myself, so I was going to vote, but it's fine because it's pretty much clear for that one being a winner. Plot twist, his former owner used him to store olives. Oh my goodness. Before he was a cookie jar. Well, I know I would rather have cookies in me. That's for sure, than olives. I'm not a fan of olives, but I love cookies. So I'm going to get paint up so I can get this poll up and saved. I will have to put the polls on the Trello, the 2 polls that we've done. I didn't keep my promise about doing character sheets. Oh dear me. But I am going to work on some in the week to make up for it. I ended up spending time getting stuff prepared for our block stream today, which you'll see in a minute. So guys, the results, it's going to stop now. The votes are going to stop. So I hope you've all voted. Print screen. There we go. So if you vote from now, it won't count because I've already print screened. So let's just save that poll. So there's 2 polls that have to go up on the Trello. No pressure from me, fan. Yeah, I want to get caught up with them just so we don't have too much of a backlog. And you never know, some of those characters might end up being important to the plot as well. So it'll be good to get their character sheets done as soon as possible in case there's a place for them in the story soon. But I'll definitely get through them before, because the last thing we want is a list that long, but we can do it. Okay, so that poll is gone now, folks. We might have more polls today, but we'll see where the stream takes us. As always, I'm always up for suggestions when it comes to polls if there's a good idea or something that someone has. Okay, so right, here we go then, everybody. These are our assets. I'm covering Hank up a little bit. Let's move across. So are we zoomed in? We are zoomed in 100%. I don't know how those guys show up for you on the stream. I'm going to open up the graphic scale as well and just show you that for a bit as well. Okay. Graphic scale. So here they are here as well. Right, so I made a little bit of a puddle on Woody to show that he was a soggy box. I think that adds a bit more to his design. And someone did suggest him having like a trail of water as well. So I've given him a puddle here as well. And I think I'm quite happy with those sprites. I think we've got the special unique features quite matched up to them all right. Like you can tell which barrel is which, and you can tell that's wood, and you can tell that's the cookie jar. We've even got Meryl's pink bikini on and the special cigarette. Hank looks very, very depressed. But that's what we were meant to do with him, so I think we've achieved what we was wanting to do there. So yeah, they are definitely at a passable stage, I'd say. I think I'm okay with the look of the shape of Woody's wet box area now. It's got that chin going on. So yeah, that's what I was finalising over the weekend. Okay, so that can hide now. Let's get our little thing back. So I've put these guys on here so we can refer to them, because they're going to be an important part of the plot now. We're doing plot stream and it's heavily going to involve these folks. So just go here a sec. Right, so I've bolded that because we've completed it now. We've done the assets for Carol's companions and the fruits now. The only thing we haven't probably done, we need to do the expressions on their faces and make the barrel sprites bounce when they walk. But that sort of stuff can be done while we're working on cutscenes and dialogue, I think so. Because we'll know what type of expressions we want at that then. And other than that, it's cutscene stuff. I mean, of course, we've got to finalise the boss battle for the fruits, but we're going to be revisiting them once we've done these particular cutscenes, because the Carol flashback scenes come before the boss scene. So we got 5 cutscenes to work on, and the first 3 are related to the flashback. B is the actual flashback, and A and C are the like sandwich of the flashback before and after. So B is definitely going to be the more bulky scene. A and C are just probably Carol talking to the hero and just a bit of dialogue before and after. And then D will be when they meet the fruits, and obviously the boss battle is in between D and E. They're the sandwiches for the boss battle. Okay, so yeah, so we got some fun things to do. So really, I'd say that the goal will be to really get the sequence of events for this flashback decided, talk about what's going to happen and what the plot is, make sure there's no plot holes, and make sure it's all works well and as a scene. And then we can start filling in the details, thinking about dialogue and putting together the cutscene, and that'll be the fun bit. I like doing the cutscene bits. They look really good. I love Hank's map spread and the work putters 40. Really good job in edit. Thank you, Sexy. Thank you so much. I also the website still needs to be done. I've had a bit of a back break from that, but I do want to get it done as soon as possible. And I will show off the assets on the website as well, of the barrels and the sprites, so peeps can look at them whenever they want. I did think about doing a character sheet for those guys, like a mini character sheet, or a sheet where all of them are on it, which is totally doable as well. But if we're doing that, I might as well just do the website and put them on there. So that'll be coming up soon as well. Lots and lots to do, but I think doing the website will be a really good job, because when peeps come in the stream, instead of sending them that, you know, Google Docs sheet or whatever, we can show them the website instead, and I think it'll look much more awesome. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys what I was working on. I've done a little bit of planning work here, so I'll move here. So I've got this timeline thing set up, and I've also done the plot so far, and this is all based on here. Remember this post? Some of you might. I tagged a few of you, Zexy being one of those, and I started talking about how we can connect everything, all the raindrop currency stuff, all the barrel sentience business, and Carol's flashback and the whole plot of her story, which is a big part of the whole main plot, which will be anyway. So, and that's what we talked about. You guys expanded on that, which was really cool. So I just revisited that over the weekend, that post, and just put together a little flow diagram, I guess, and connected everything. I've colour coded it based on where it happens in the timeline. The black ones are just law related boxes, so we can slowly add more of those if anybody mentions something that's relevant today. If we think, oh yeah, we'll add that, but we'll slowly we'll just plan stuff. And I think when we've got a good plan, we'll be at the right point to start the dialogue and the cutscene. So we've got where episode 1 begins. Carol meets the hero and Rose, and there's events that happen before that. And looking at stuff that was said in the ideas channel, particularly what you mentioned, Zexy, I'm going to read out loud what you said now. I'm going to quote you. You said there should be talking lakefall of how dangerous the Everbloom forest has gotten recently. Be that multiple people talking about rumours of monster attacks starting a half dozen weeks ago, or merchants talking about the new dangers of their trade routes over the past few months, and a town at Alder talking about how she remembers frolicking in the woods 30 years ago before the very trees and plants started attacking humans. So that particular thing you said made me think that we should do a timeline, because it's easier to just get everything, imagining a timeline. It just organises everything perfectly, I'd say. And I guess I've here just thought of a idea. I feel like this sort of time period could work. We can change it if we feel it should be changed, but for now this could be a good starting point. So we know, and I briefly discussed this last week because it was brought up by people in chat. People in chat were asking about the barrels, asking how they are alive. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to be talking about that loads next week, because the plot, it's all about this. It's all about the barrel sentience. And yes, it's all to do with this. I've got currently that happened 6 months ago, and it was 3 months ago when they actually came to life, when they developed consciousness. And I think I've put like a bit of a gap between that, because we said that they need time to develop that consciousness. It's not going to happen immediately. The spell won't work right away. And the reason for that is because the person that cast the spell thinks it failed. Or it did fail the spell he intended to do, and the side effect was the barrels and the containers having sentience. But he leaves them behind because he thinks, oh, that didn't work. And when he leaves, over time they eventually form the sentience and then build a community together. So that is how they were brought to life. They were just random objects before then. And there's a reason why he put a spell on them, and it's all related to the raindrops, which is basically everything that's here. The antagonist wants to get rich. They want raindrops, because raindrops are only valuable if they keep the X element that we haven't named yet within them. So that's what makes them valuable, and only special containers can do that. Because obviously there has to be some way to stop people just randomly getting rich, otherwise the world will be chaos. Everybody would just be collecting raindrops and everybody would be rich. So the raindrops aren't valuable unless they're in these containers, and only the government and the banks, etc., powerful people like that, have access to these containers, because it's their job to distribute the raindrops. If they're good, of course, and fair, then they would distribute the raindrops equally. But obviously there's greedy people around in this world that are like, no, screw that, I don't want the government to do it, I'm going to get rich myself and do illegal things. And that's what this guy's doing. We don't know who this guy is yet. That's the stuff we can discuss today as well, who this antagonist can be. come up with some ideas, talk about possibilities. But they're the ones that basically are the reason for why Carol's here. So I'm very glad, actually, because we wouldn't have these awesome characters if it wasn't for their illegal activities. I think that was a really good way to make it all connect, because the whole Raindrop's currency, I always wanted it to be part of the main plot, because that's why it's called Raindrop Chronicles. So, and having it connect with Carol, a character we've already formed an attachment to, and giving her a backstory, and having that backstory be the driving point for the whole main quest of the game, feels like a really good route to go with this. And the hero and Rose and any other party member that joins will find themselves like involved in this whole thing because they're with Carol. So that's how it all works. Timelines are always a good outlines for sure, yeah. And instead of like just doing a massive like bulk of text like here, I could have just copied and pasted this, but I thought no, I want to make it all like cool with boxes and with colour coded and stuff. I wanted to make it pretty. The barrels are alive. Hi Rex. And yeah, you came up, I remember you were the one that like talked about this, and I was like, actually that ties in really well. I think what you mentioned was the whole fact that they could be brought to life from someone who was doing illegal activity with Raindrops, and I was like, yeah, that's really cool. And when we had that conversation, that's when I wrote all this in the Discord so other peeps could, to see what other peeps would think. Rose, this is really good organisation system. Thank you, Zexy. If you guys have any feedback at all for good ways to approach this as well that I might have not considered, then feel free to say. This, of course, is just something that came into my head to do as a good way to do it, but there might be something I've like not realised as well, so I'm always up for suggestions on how to, if we want to adjust the system at all or anything extra to it. I only just thought of the timeline yesterday afternoon, because I did this bit first. And then I was like, oh, maybe we should just do a timeline so we can know how to organise everything. And I did, and it makes it even easier as well, I think, having this as well. Yay. So, yeah, this is, I mean, if we alter this and change it to a year ago or made this 6 months ago, we can always do that if we feel that time's a little bit too close together. But right now, this could work. We'll adjust if necessary. And this is where the flashback that we're going to be working on very soon will happen, this green text here, where Carol is separated from her companions. And I've put in brackets flashback during main quest 2 because that's where we are in the game now, and we'll have that particular flashback. And we've got this orange text and red text here, and these could also be flashbacks as well at some point. We can actually see the scene where they come to life. We can also see the scene where the spell's cast. There might even be scenes in between the 3 months and 1 month where we show them as a sort of little family and community. If we want to just spend more time with these awesome characters, then we can do, because we might not see them for a while in the present time because they've been kidnapped. And that might not be until much later on in the story when we actually find them in the present day. So it would be nice to visit them in flashbacks if that's really the only way right now to get to know with these characters and spend time with them. If it helps the story and the plot, then it's always useful and fun. But yeah, so another thing, I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, the reason why this flashback gets triggered is because Carol recognises Rose. Because otherwise it would seem really out the blue if Carol was just like, oh, by the way, hero, my family have gone and this is what happened. Because she doesn't know the hero, she barely has got to know him at this point, so it would just seem a bit forced, you know, if you get what I mean. If she just suddenly is like, oh yeah, by the way, hero, my family's gone, and this is what happened to them. But I find that Carol actually seeing Rose triggers Carol to want to tell the hero what happened exactly, because Rose is kind of all linked in with it as well. I haven't talked about that much yet, about how she's linked in with it, but we can talk about that today as well. Hi Gretch, how you doing today? It's good to see you. I just realised they're literal barrels I'm invested. They are! Look at them. They're so cool, aren't they? Not just barrels, we got a box and we got a cookie jar as well. Welcome and thank you for the follow, Bin Blow. As well, I appreciate it. We spent the last few streams making these assets, but now it's time to put it all together, all the plot, and it's all based around these guys. They're very much a key part of the plot and the driving motivation of the game. So we're just having an organisation stream today where we get a good sequence of events decided before we start working on dialogue and cutscenes. And this Draw.io program is pretty cool for that, because I kind of do everything in there now for planning and getting info together. How are you doing, Gretch, as well? I hope you're having a good day. So right, and I will probably do, you know, save this image and pop it in the Discord after stream, so peeps can read it, especially if they weren't involved in the stream, if they want to have a little say in the Discord later. Okay, so Carol meets the hero and Rose. I feel like I feel like adding a bit of information there. I felt like adding, I don't know, I might leave that for now. I think that the timeline makes sense. But of course, if you guys think, oh Rose, maybe we could do that as well, that'll help, and totally feel free to say. I mean, I'm no pro at story organisation, but I think I'm doing okay. But there's always good methods to do things that I might have not considered as well. Who knows? Can we have a joke dialogue option while in the village where the hero can ask, hey Carol, what's your tragic backstory? And Carol just gives the hero a cold shoulder and he's like, no, it's not time to talk about that. That's a joke. Hi Remnant, how are you doing? What, it's a joke? I mean, we hang on, have we got dialogue? What I need to do, one thing I do need to do is get, let me just open this window, a big sheet of the dialogue for the whole of Main Quest 1 and Main Quest 2. And I've kind of got a list here of what that dialogue's going to be, but I'd like it all on one sheet, and then we can like refer to it easier then, because at the moment they're all on separate sheets. We can just make it one big massive sheet. Because this is the only Carol dialogue we've had so far, guys. This particular bit here, which is, I've got that up now because Lexi has referred to Carol dialogue. So we haven't had much conversation with her, but it's been amusing so far. It's been a bit of banter. Because basically the hero was a stowaway and in Carol at first. And she ends up just tagging along with the hero because according to her, he's responsible for any damages she suffers now because he was inside her. And that was X's dialogue and it was pretty cool. Thank you for the follows, guys. Hi Lotus, welcome. Ghosty, thank you for the host. So, of course, if you do have any dialogue suggestions that aren't jokes, I will obviously I will add it to a notepad file to refer to. Even if we add a little bit of extra dialogue here, it's fine. If we want to add a bit more to dialogue we have already put in the game, if we feel it's appropriate to, of course. But we will have another scene, which is that one that we haven't crossed out yet. Carol, the Barrel and Rose, pre-flashback. So there will be a bit of talk happening then, of course. We need to think about what will be involved in that particular conversation. but I'm assuming Carol the Barrel, because Rose has just joined the party at this point. She's literally just joined. Carol will be like, I recognise this one. This flesh bag, as she calls them. Or maybe she could have another slang or curse word for Rose. Because I think that fictional curse words are fun. So we could make some up that she could call the party. And then she'll be like, and then I guess there'll be a little bit of banter. And then finally, after some pushing, she will talk about her past and how her barrel friends went missing. So yes, definitely need to think about what will be involved in that. Right, so this is basically where it is. This green bit here, I guess, is got what we've got to write next. This is going to be all the what the flashback is about, basically. So to sum it up, the flashback, the barrels are gone. These guys here, Carol used to live with them, be a family. They were a little community together, enjoying their sentience. They were super happy. They were probably carried between, trade routes to transport goods because they're barrels. Enjoying adventures around the Everbloom Forest area and local little villages. And then all of a sudden one day something happens and they're gone. And I think some of you might know what's involved, because I have hinted that it all involves illegal raindrops. Basically, I'd say what it comes down to is this particular antagonist here, who created them in the first place, comes back for them, or he hires somebody to capture them for him. It could work either way. If we don't want to meet this guy yet, because he might be more of a villain that's meant to be for a little bit later, he could have hired other people to do the capturing for him. But there's also the chance that in the flashback we don't see who did the capturing as well, because we couldn't have the flashback from Carol's perspective, which means she didn't actually see who took them. So yeah, that's probably the obvious thing, that they come back for them because they realise that the barrels are actually sentient. I've got some notes here, hang on. So yeah, they thought their spell failed and they left the barrels behind, and then months after, the barrels come to life. And right, let's see. Yeah, Fox, I think, mentioned that they later heard stories of living containers, and now he's tried to recapture them. Once he hears that all this stuff is going on, it like clicks in his mind. So he wants to come back for the barrels, well, the containers. And he basically, I guess he might, there's a number of reasons why he'd come back for them. One, because now they can talk, they might know information they shouldn't know. That he, brought them to life and was doing illegal stuff, so he might fear for his secret being revealed. With talking barrels being able to say, oh, so-and-so was doing this, and then he'd end up, in trouble for illegal activities. That could be a reason he wants to shut them up. Or maybe he realises they could have worked for the original drop job after all. The reason why he wanted them in the first place was so he could have special containers for his illegal raindrops. Maybe he wants them back. He feels like they actually do work and the spell didn't fail. He just thought it did. So basically, yeah, there's a lot of detail to fill in there, but to sum it up, he's come back for them. That's why they've gone missing. And for some reason, Carol wasn't taken with them. And there's a couple of ideas I've got for why she wasn't taken with them. And we can talk about that now. So the obvious scenario for me for how this situation came to be and how they were successfully kidnapped is that they were probably on a cart on the road on a trade route between the Everbloom Forest and a nearby farm or town, because that's kind of what is their barrels. So you can imagine they're used a lot for transport, to transport goods and foods and stuff like that, materials. And considering that's how the game begun, I mean, if you've watched the Story So Far video, you'll see that's how the hero met Carol the Barrel in the first place. He was a stowaway. He was in the barrel, in the cart, to get to an area. We don't know why he was at this point, or she, because it's custom, no gender. All we know is that they were on a cart together. So there's probably there's probably a few local areas around the Everbloom Forest. I couldn't imagine they'd go too far out, but nearby little settlements and stuff, they could travel between them for trade routes. And so they could be in a cart on the road, and their cart could get hijacked. That's the obvious scenario that came into my mind, because that's probably the easiest way to kidnap barrels, when they're all together in one place. Otherwise, just carrying them, there's a chance you could get caught, right? There's like 6 containers here. If some random dudes or random dude was just in a town carrying barrels, kidnapping them, he'd probably be caught. But hijacking a car, although that's pretty dramatic, at least he can get the job done fast and travel, just get away as fast as possible. So that is probably the way we could do that. And it also could work for Carol. Could have fell out the cart as well during the hijacking, because as you can imagine, there's probably a bit of commotion. The person that did the hijacking would have they'd be going really fast in the cart to try and escape as fast as possible, and during all that racket, Carol could have tumbled out the cart and left, and all the containers are still in there and have left without her. So that could solve that. Drama makes for good story though. Yeah. How many people know the barrels are alive? That's a good question too, because we could go 2 directions with that. I guess we could do it so they only talk to themselves when they feel they're alone. Or we could do it so they've got no shame and they just talk out in the open in front of anybody. Because we have kind of said, we've talked about the lore of the Everbloom Forest area, and it's been mentioned that people have noticed. There's people are talking about how trees and plants have started attacking humans, and there's a lot of more trouble on trade routes. It's more dangerous because there's these sentient beings around now that there wasn't before. Because it's very true, trees and fruits have also come to life as well. It's not just the barrels. And that's because when the spell was cast, the spell that brought them to life, it also affected the surrounding areas, like the trees and the plants. Because we have some really cute alive creatures. We've got Stumpy, and is it Father Maple? That's their trees, and we have a group of fruits that are alive as well, that are our first boss. So it ties in nicely for why they're alive as well. So I'd say that people have noticed that there's things alive around. It's kind of scared them a bit, and I'd say the people in the Everbloom Forest aren't the most aggressive or hostile though. They're a bit cowardly, so they kind of would rather just hide away in their villages and not face the problem than go out there and deal with it. So the problem isn't really being solved. And so yeah, that's probably I guess I'm up for hearing what you guys think about that as well. Cute alive creatures, well, not for long. Well, maybe they'll die, yes, because they are enemies we have to fight, unfortunately, but not the barrels. We don't fight them. So yeah, as I was talking, they could be on a trade route in a cart. There's a hijacking. We don't see who's doing the hijacking, or maybe we do, but we could also not if we were looking from the barrel's perspective. If they're in the cart, there'll be a lot of commotion and noise happening. But then Carol roll out and we'll just see the cart leave. And as for where Rose ties in with all this, well, Rose could have been a stowaway. That's one way to deal with it that's easy. While they were in this cart, Rose could have been in the cart with them, hiding, just like the hero was when he was in Carol at the start of the game. And Rose, if she is a stowaway in the cart, she would have left with the hijacker and the containers. And Carol remembers she was a stowaway on that cart, so she therefore is the only one that would know where they are. And whether there's any other reasons Rose might have witnessed the kidnapping and know where they are, there could be. Who knows? I'm up to hear ideas. But that's just the obvious one that sticks in my mind. And Rose, by the way, is somebody that can't talk. She can't communicate with voice. She just makes animal sounds, basically. She's a feral vampire. So that is also very frustrating for Carol as well. That someone who knows where her family are is also somebody that can't speak because they can't tell where they are. So she's very frustrated by that. But she does find a way later on to make Rose tell her. She finds an easel and makes Rose paint a picture about where their location is. And that all connects in with the fruits, the fruit battle, because the fruits are actually painters. It's very random, but they are. The fruits are painters, and we got them. Let's get them out. Because I did add something pretty cute to the fruits that I want to show you. Here they are. I added their little sprites. I've put them here. They're matte sprites. So yeah, that's, if you guys haven't seen the fruits yet, these are them. They're sentient fruits and they're painters. So it all ties in with Rose painting a picture to help communicate with Carol. So that is what is going to take place during the second main quest. So I think like we've had a bit of a ramble about it now. And it's just like thinking about the sequence of events now, writing it down in an organised way and preparing to get the dialogue and cutscene done, I guess, guys. It's as simple as that. And of course, if there's anything you want to pipe up and say, then feel free to say, don't be shy. Hi Reed, how you doing? You're enthralled. Awesome. That's a very positive feedback, I think. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a good day, Reed. Hello there, Rose in chat. Yeah, welcome to our fun, nerdy little RPG making stream. How does Carol act when in the village? Does she talk to the hero in the open or only when they're alone? I think that would give us a hint. Give us a hint all the barrels act, if they hide themselves or not. Well, let's have a peek at the dialogue again. Or we could watch the story so far video and remind ourselves, but from what I remember, she's hiding at first, but then she shows herself and kicks the hero out of her because he's inside her and she doesn't want him in her. So she like punches him and she just says, she says get out, gives him a wallop, and she's just like, oh gross, and just uses her Sunday nature on the hero. And then she hides again, and she comes out as well in the Everbloom Forest, and that's where this other dialogue bit happens. But nobody else is there other than the hero at that time when she says this part. But in this section, when she gets all angry at the hero, they are in the village at that point in Lakefall. and there are people around, but not anybody in their like little radius, if that makes sense. There's people in the village, but they're a little bit more further out. There's nobody that would overhear the conversation. We can look at the video now. Give me a sec, guys, because we can get the story so far video up actually. And I recommend people having a peep at that video if you do want to know what's happened in the story so far. So I'm going to get it up myself now actually. Give me a minute to get the YouTube. Here we go. Gonna get breakfast, BRB. Oh, enjoy your breakfast, Rex. I'm getting this game. Yeah, it's gonna be a free-to-play episodic game. I want many people as possible to be exposed to the game. So that is why I've made the decision for free-to-play most of all, so people can play it without any fuss. And it's gonna be a blast. We're gonna make it awesome, aren't we? My reaction to that would be then to conclude that the barrels only talk amongst themselves, so very few people know they're alive. Yeah, I'd say talk amongst themselves or other beings. They don't care about talking in front of monsters or anything like that. But I guess Carol talked to the hero because he was in her, so it made her so annoyed that she had to speak up at that point. Let's have a peep at the video and then we can see how it all happens. So here it is. So this is Lakefall. This is the very start of the game after you've created the custom hero. So that's the hero inside Carol, but as you can see, you can't see that it's a living barrel right now. It's just pretending to be a normal barrel at this point. But yeah, Carol shows a face, says get out, punches the hero, and just she feels really disgusted and violated basically. And I haven't shown what happens next because I've moved on to the next scene in the inn. But basically, she just is like, ugh. And then she goes again. She hides her face again. So the barrels will switch between hiding the faces and showing the faces when the time is right. If something, I'd say, emotionally gets to them, they will not hide from showing the faces. You know, like, for example, then Carol was emotionally affected, so she showed her face because she was like, get out of me. So yeah, and I guess that we also need to think about when they're in the cart together, they have this really, we're going to have a bit of banter between them all. Let's get back to our assets. I think when we see them for the first time in the flashback, a great introduction would be some really charming dialogue lines between them all as a group, as a family. And because they're in the cart, they wouldn't fear talking amongst each other. If Rose is a stowaway, though, would that bother them that she's there? Or maybe they don't know she's there immediately. Maybe Rose is hiding and she peeks out somewhere at some point and the barrels kind of freak out and go all hide or something. We could always do that. But if Rose is going to be a stowaway, we will have to show Rose was in the cart with them, and then the Carol will get knocked out during the hijacking. I think that seems like a good way to do it. Obviously, if you guys notice any plot holes, feel free to say. I think a good thing to do at this point would be to write that sequence of events. I'd say we could do it with the flow chart probably, because that's how we've done it so far. I could write more there and say Carol meets Hero and Rose and get caught up in her quest to save her barrel companions. Do we need to put Rose? I feel like the only reason I wanted to put Rose is because she's relevant to triggering Carol, but Carol meets human Rose who get caught up in a quest to save commands. Just so people know the point of it. And I guess the point of it is we just get caught up in this little quest. That's all it comes down to. The hero's minding his own business. I'm sure he's got his reasons for why he was a stowaway, but he's got no plot at the start of the game. We don't have a clue who they are, why they're in Lakefall. And Carol's the first person they meet. She ends up travelling with the hero as a fellow companion. She offers to be the hero's inventory, and yeah, we just get caught in our little past with these charming characters. I guess that's the best way to sum up the main quest. And it's all we're gonna make it a really wild adventure, guys. This quest of Carol's, because it all links into the Raindrops. It's called Raindrop Chronicles, and they're containers. They're being used illegally. And it's going to be pretty fascinating, I'd say. Have you made other games? I have spent a lot of a long time having a lot of creative ideas, writing stories, putting things together game-wise, but I haven't done a complete game now, or released an actual game. So when episode 1 gets released of Raindrop Chronicles, that'll be my first official released game. And then so that'll be a real achievement, because when you've had so many different ideas and you never complete them, which has happened a lot with me, so it'll be a super good achievement to do this. And let's read what the rest of chat has said. I like the idea that they don't know she's there, or maybe she was a prisoner who was able to escape due to the attack. Or Rose could have been part of the caravan and the attack gave her amnesia. So Rose, hang on a sec. Let's get all these ideas considered. Rose, she would remember though. She wouldn't have amnesia because she'd remember exactly what happens. The only problem is she can't communicate it because she can't speak. So that's the frustrating thing about Rose being the one that knows the info. But she's a prisoner who was able to escape due to the attack. That could work too, because Rose being a vampire, people don't trust her, and she would sort of be a captive in a lot of situations. When we first met her, she was a captive then as well, so that could be a possibility that she's a prisoner. I guess we could think about why they're on this cart. My obvious idea was because it's a trade route, and that they had perhaps vegetables in them or goods, and they were just being transported from Everbloom Forest and a local area, or vice versa. That was one, but maybe there's another reason for where the cart's going. Maybe Rose is a prisoner, but why would the barrels be there if that's the case? I guess, or maybe it's both. Maybe they're just who knows. The hero could be hiding from the same organisation that cast the spell on the barrels. Yeah, I think the hero, if anyone's going to have amnesia, it would be him. Just because it feels like a good excuse. As the player, us going into the world, we don't have a clue what's going on. So we're the hero. We don't know our own past because we've just been put into this world. Where we don't know what's going on. And I think that's why it works to make the hero a blank slate, because they find out things throughout the journey, I guess. But that we could, tying everything in together is what always works very well. I'm going to buy RPG Maker 2. This looks mind-boggling, consuming and entertaining. It is. It's always fun to talk about plot and characters and all that stuff. It's always a blast. That's a fair point. So does Rose recognise Carol before Carol recognises Rose, or did they recognise each other at the same time? How do you feel about human trafficking? I guess vampire trafficking. Feel free to expand on any vampire trafficking idea you have, Zexy. I mean, Rose being a stowaway, I thought maybe her just being in there by choice was one idea, because she just wants to get to an area easily, so just jumping on a cart means less walk. It doesn't mean she has to walk as far because she's on cart, but she could have been put on there unwillingly as well. I guess it's thinking who was riding the cart originally before it got hijacked as well. Maybe it was some people that were up to no good, really. Maybe Carol and her gang were better being well away from them. But maybe they were just innocent merchants. Who knows? Who knows? I guess it's deciding what is the most gripping scenario and most interesting scenario for this, because it's definitely the whole reason for Rose being there is something that can be anything. It's not really important to the plot why Rose is there. The only thing that matters is that she is there, and Carol knows that she was there. But the reason for being there, that can be something that we can decide together, and whatever we come up with, it'll work, I'd say. As for does Rose recognise Carol before Carol recognises Rose? That's an interesting one, because Rose being someone that can't talk, we don't really know what goes on in her head because she can't communicate. The only way we would know is through facial expressions and stuff like that, and noise, sound effects that she might make. So I'd say that when Carol recognises Rose, because we're going to have this particular cutscene when Carol points out that she knows Rose, which is cutscene A here, is going to happen very, very fast after Rose joins the party. Which, if you watch a story so far video here, that is how the story ended. Rose has joined the party, and that's the furthest we've got story-wise. So what we're planning now is how it all continues from that point. So cutscene A, where Carol recognises Rose, we will have an event trigger very quickly after Rose joins the party, where Carol's like, I know this wench. I don't know. We need to come up with some good slang words for what Carol can call Rose. Fleshbag's one, but I think that fleshbag is kind of what she calls the hero. But she could call it to any human, because fleshbag is a word that would suit, well, any human really. So we've got, that is something she's already been saying. And yeah, if you've looked at our description as well for Carol, her personality, she is a hostile barrel who behaves harshly to others but has a secret softer side. So that is what Carol is. She's going to name call. She's going to be mean. She's going to be sassy. And I think having a sort of name that she calls Rose that isn't offensive, because we don't want to be super offensive. That's why fictional swear words are great. So we can always make up a word. But I thought something like sort of wench or lady seems a little bit nice for Carol to call her, as if she was like, I know this lady. I know that's too polite for Carol. So being something like a sort of slightly offensive term for Rose could work better. So yes, she's hostile and she's harsh, so that we got to be consistent with character, and she's going to be super full on nasty to Rose, I guess. And Rose might look a little bit guilty, a little bit like, you can tell, we'll have the facial expressions that Rose uses, even though she can't speak. The facial expressions will give it away basically. But yeah, it's true. She knows Carol too. And yeah, she knows. But yeah, I definitely think you should buy RPG Maker, read it. So it's a very good piece of software. Very, very nifty for putting together a cool RPG. Such an early stream today, is it? I'm late today, by the way. I was super late because I had a blue screen. No. How are you doing anyway? Play it forward. So the smugglers were trying to smuggle raindrops, but what if the smugglers were also trying to smuggle people? As in, Rose paid to get herself smuggled out of a place or into a place. Oh, okay. If Rose paid, I'd be intrigued how Rose would pay to get herself smuggled when she can't talk to people. It's very hard for Rose to be able to, like, communicate with humans effectively because of her lack of speech. So I would be curious how that would have came to be. Something about her not actually being a plant despite being named Rose. Oh, Rose isn't a plant. Rose is a human. Well, she's a human vampire anyway. Have we got Rose's character sheet just so you guys can see? Rose is the first playable character that joins the party. If you watch the Story So Far video, you'll see her, which is here, guys. Let me do the command. So yeah, this is Rose. This one here. She's me. She's me. She's also there on the stream walking. I'm tired but alive. She could call her a stepper since the barrels presumably can roll or otherwise avoid taking traditional steps. Oh yeah, that's true as well. Does stepper sound mean? No, she was like, I know this stepper. I always think, like, something like wench sounds really, like, awful. It's a horrible word. So, you know, if it has that sort of offensive tone to it, that's always a plus. Yeah, I meant Carol could use an insult relating to her being a fake player. Oh, did you? Oh, I get it now. Anything sounds mean if you say it a certain way. Yeah, we don't have voice acting though, so that's always the tricky bit. Getting the tone across. But I guess that's the thing, like wording the dialogue, I guess, to make it sound like aggressive with Carol. I think that will be the most challenging part of her character, because I'm a very nice human. So somebody like me who's nice, writing an angry, hostile character is always going to be an interesting thing. So this is why you guys are going to be good, because you guys will probably know how to be mean more than I do. Hi Runic, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Hi Chubb as well, how are you doing? Okay, so I've been assuming that the lack of communication is recent. I don't know why I thought that. Did she lose her communication when she was 10, or is it more recent? Oh, I'd say that Rose has been a vampire for a while. She used to be a normal farm girl, but I would say that was definitely well over a year ago. She's been a vampire for a while now. We don't know how long. We don't really know the timeline of that. I don't believe the character sheet states when it happened, but I'd say that she's lived this lifestyle for a considerable amount of time at this point. And it was definitely when the Barrels had been kidnapped, which was 1 month ago. She was definitely a vampire at that point. Probably well over a year before then, I'd say. How are you doing, Chubb? I hope you're having a good day. We don't like you apples here. Can no vampire communicate? Well, the vampire, it's law. The vampire law is something that has got a lot of room for being expanded on. Rose in particular is a feral vampire. She kind of has been consuming animal blood, like very low level animal blood, and that's kind of made her form animalistic traits. So because of her standard of living and her consuming really bad blood and like cow's blood and everything like that, rat blood, she's very animalistic. But she's the only vampire in the story so far that exists. Whether there's others, could be possible, yes or no, we don't know at this point. There could definitely be higher level vampires if they consumed the right blood, maybe. Because considering Rose is the feral vampire she is because of the blood she's been consuming, that is the reason she's like that. It could mean that if you have a higher class of blood, you become a more sophisticated vampire. Maybe that could be the route the law takes with vampires. But vampires aren't a race, they are turned. So they were always humanoid before they were a vampire. So I'd say any humanoid race, whether human, elf, dwarf, or any of that kind of thing, has the ability to be turned into a vampire. We don't know, but there's still a lot of questions about why it happened and who did it. We don't know the antagonist that did it to Rose at this point, but I'm sure over the course of the journey those gaps will be filled in. How does one become a vampire? Well, if you guys should read Rose's character sheet. I think I have to do a bit of an edit though, because for some reason I'm talking about her being sentient, but that's not actually the case. Like, she is sentient, you know, even if she's a wild animal, she's still sentient. I should use another word rather than sentient for that particular bit, I think. So I will have to do a bit of an edit, but this will kind of sum up her backstory. It just really explains that what she was before. She was just a farm girl, and she was turned through sorcery. The reason why, we don't know. I'm sure there was a very, very dark motive behind it, but I like to leave things open because I'm always intrigued what the community can come up with. So I didn't want to flesh it out too much at this point in the story. Humanoid as us lizard folk can't be turned. There was one reason why beasts couldn't be turned. I forgot now why it was. I'm gonna have to think of why. Maybe they can, but I'm sure for some reason I said about a couple of months back that only humanoids could be vampires. I just cannot remember for the life of me why it was only humanoids. I'm sure there's a reason. I'll have to try and have a think. Hi Juice, how you doing today? It's good to see you. Sapient, yeah, maybe that's the right word. Yeah, I definitely knew sentient wasn't the correct word. Well, your hair's so dark that it fades in with the background, does it? Let's just go get a black screen. Oh, there we go. I'm a tiny bit lighter than the background, but not much. The lights do make my hair look very dark. I have a very, very, very dark brown hair colour. People don't think it's black because it's so dark under certain lights. But when I'm in the sun, it's a lot. You can see the brown shades more then. Rose, you got to watch all 250 hours of the VODs to find out. Is it a prejudice thing? Don't like I taste? I'm offended. I taste as good as any human. I'm sure at some point there will be an opportunity to flesh out vampire lore when the time's right. So, and you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we end up coming across other vampire folk in the story at some point. But Rose is simply feral, and because of her lifestyle and maybe it was part of the sorcery spell that they made her that way too, but it could also be because of the blood she's been consuming as well that made her the way she is. Hi Lucky Longfinger, how you doing? It's so good to see you, and thank you so much for that sub, 3-month streak. Appreciate that. How are you doing, Lucky? I hope you're having a wonderful day. How are you doing? What are you making today? We're doing some plot writing today, Juice. We've got a timeline here. We've got episode 1 where it begins. It's all centered around Carol, by the way, because Carol is basically the MVP now of the main story. And these are the Carol and her friends, and they're very much involved, as you know. So we've got where episode 1 begins, where Carol meets the hero and Rose, and they get caught up in a quest to save her companions. And we've also got what happened a month ago, 3 months ago, and 6 months ago, and I've expanded on those details here. The red boxes are for that bit, the orange box are for them, and then we're working on the green bit now as well, where we talk about when she was separated from her companions. So it was 3 months ago, approximately. There's room to like change the time if we feel we have to, but this works as a good base right now. So at the moment, it was 3 months ago when Carol and her companions came to life, when they came sentient. And it was all from the cause of a spell. But it took a bit of time for that spell to start working. But it was a failed spell. It was the person that did the spell wanted to use them for other reasons, and sentience was a side effect from their spell. They wanted to do it for illegal reasons. They wanted the barrels and the containers to make illegal raindrops, because it can be a bit confusing if you don't know the law. But all these black squares explain it, because we call Raindrop Chronicles the game. Raindrops are our currency, and it's all about somebody wanting to get rich off raindrops and stuff. And basically all this talk explains it. I think I've wrote it as clearly as I hopefully can do. But yeah, it all connects. Carol being a container, illegal raindrops. It's very tragic, actually, because Carol and her friends have been used and abused by a meanie antagonist. What is that, Dynamond? It's invisible thing. Yeah, I need to sort my cam out, because his colour's going a bit with the green screen for some reason. And even though he's not green, he's grey. So we need to fix him. But it's a bat. It's a bat. Should we fix him? Let's get my cam working. We'll get his colour back. Okay. So I'm sure Chubb is very happy to not have Mog anymore, because Chubb didn't like Moogle. Okay, so we've got him back, but obviously we've got a few little bits on our green screen we don't want now. I think hopefully that'll do for now. Better than it was anyway, but I have to have a bit more time to sort it out properly. Law. Oh, you've got a law emote. It's a very blank bat. It's a Ditto. Yeah, Ditto's my favourite Pokemon. This was a present, by the way. It's a custom made bat, so it's very special to me. Its face made me think it's a Ditto in another Pokemon form. Yep, Ditto's the best. Actually works quite well. It's perfect, isn't it? For our stream, we're a bat stream. My face even fits perfectly on him as well. It was made for me. Okay, so right, where are we then? So yeah, we'll work on the sequence of events for the flashback then, guys. I hope I haven't missed any interesting discussion and ideas. Obviously, feel free to expand on it. I mean, I'm still intrigued about the whole Rose reason for being on the cart. We can talk about that more. Feel free to talk in the general idea discussion if you want to expand on any potential idea that might be had. I know Zexy had an intriguing idea for Rose being on the cart that was more than her just being a simple stowaway. Okay, so thank you, Chrononusk, for the follow. Welcome. How are you doing? Haven't read much of the Discord for months, so I'm mostly in the dark. Yes. Well, don't worry at all, Chubb, because you know how we've got this video to do the command again. It's a story so far series, and I will be regularly doing those videos when there's an update to the story. That I'm going to keep them as short as possible. This particular one here is 2 minutes approximately, so I'm going to keep them in little videos, and there'll be like little updates to the plot, and there might be some lore videos thrown in as well now and again. I think it'd be cool to do some lore related videos as well, and people who haven't been around for a while and might want to just be updated on what's going on in the game story wise, that will be the ideal thing to do, I'd say, watch those videos. But one thing I do want to do as well is get the website finished and basically get what's in the video put in written form on the website as well. Didn't know we had that video. Yeah, make sure you watch it so you're updated with the plot. I mean, we're still very early on. We've only done one main quest so far. We're on the second main quest now, so it's still very, very early on. But we'll definitely be due for doing another video once we've finished these particular scenes that we're working on now, which are these ones. Cutscene A, B, C, D, and E. Hi Storm, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Hope you're having a good day, Storm. Okay, folks, so we're going to get this flashback written up just like a sequence of events, because I think it'll be a lot easier to make this cutscene once we know how exactly things are going to happen. And obviously, if you have any questions about the plot, I will totally be happy to guide you through what's going on here. If you can't, if the screen doesn't capture all the writing, which it doesn't, I mean, I can zoom out a touch, but I think the text gets a little bit small if I zoom out too much. So there's a few questions as well, a few blanks. The question is, who is this antagonist? We've got mention of an antagonist that's behind it all, but we don't know what antagonist. Is it somebody that's already an antagonist, like Chub Cheeks? Or is it a brand new antagonist that isn't a community character? Is it somebody that we're just going to make? There's also questions of who are the hijackers of the cart? Probably somebody the antagonist has hired to do the job for them, because I doubt that they're going to be the one doing the hijacking, you know what I mean? Usually these big guys that are up to no good doing all the stuff at the top, they get their little minions to do all the dangerous jobs for them, don't they? So I don't think it'll be actually this particular person that's talked about here and here. The one who brought Carol to life, the one responsible for that. I doubt that they will be the ones that hijack and kidnap the containers. That they'll have got, they would have got somebody to do it for them. That's my prediction. So we can discuss who potentially could be that person that's the main antagonist in this particular situation, and the person that's doing the hijacking as well. I am happy for them to do it on my orders, but not me. So you, Chub Cheeks, I know that Chub Cheeks wanted to be somebody that was involved in the forging of illegal raindrops. Chub Cheeks, actually, I can quote what Chub Cheeks said last stream. I remember ages ago thinking my character would try and forge his own raindrops. And then he said, I also want a giant hamster mount. So if Chub is still interested in his character taking that route, he could literally be somebody that's responsible for all this goings on. Whether he was the one that cast the spell, we don't know, because we don't know whether Chub is capable of being a spellcaster. I mean, I think he could definitely be an alchemist to that degree, but I don't know much about alchemy and spells. Can the two be merged together somehow? I'm no pro at that, but I will ask you guys in chat if you know. If spellcasting and alchemy can be a combined thing, I don't know. So that Simply, it's an antagonist that wants to get rich, is forging illegal raindrops. It's still a question mark who that antagonist is. It would be really cool if one of the existing ones that we've already got fits into that perfectly, then we'd go for them. But if not, we'd just create our own antagonist, guys. So I forgot about the hamster. I want a sidekick who does magic. You know, this, it could work that it's a double duo team. When we've got antagonist here, it refers as if it's just one person, but it could also be a faction. It doesn't necessarily have to be just one person doing it all off their own back. It could be a duo, it could be a faction, and it could even be a massive, you know, group of people that are up to no good. Multiple people, even hundreds, if it's really turned into a big thing. There's just many ways we could go with this sort of thing. One thing we do know, if we are going to have it be Chubb that's responsible for this, and maybe it wasn't Chubb that did the spell, but maybe Chubb is the one that made the spellcaster do the spell for his own ends. Chubb is a reptile. He's wearing armour so that people can't see who he is. Whether he's ashamed of his race and that's why he's wearing the armour, or he just doesn't want people to know he's a reptile is the question. But the fact, if we decide to go with him being the one behind this, then it could be a good way to get the other reptiles involved in the story as well, because they're kind of a big part of what's happening in Lakefall as well. There's been mention of a rivalry between the humans living in Lakefall and the reptiles. We haven't really talked about that much in the game so far because we haven't really had much NPC discussion in Lakefall yet. When we revisit Lakefall after we've done all this particular part, then we will expand on all that. But what we have discussed very briefly is that there is a sort of rivalry between reptiles and humans in Lakefall and the Everbloom Forest area. So bringing in reptiles as soon as possible would be good, I would say. Let's catch up with chat then. Hi Legmog, how you doing? It's good to see you. How's it going? I'm going to catch up with chat, guys, because I am behind. I want the sequel already. Doing fine, as my PC started blue screening, and I have no idea why, because it can blue screen twice in around 20 minutes or stay without crashing. Jinx, Storm Eagle, I blue screened today myself. But I know why I'm blue screening. It's always when I open OBS, Streamlabs OBS, when it does an update. That's when I blue screen. I don't know why it blue screens during updates. I'm going to have to find out. I hope you get it fixed though, Storm. Oliver the spellcaster. Oliver. Zexy wants the owner of the cookie jar to be the spellcaster. The one that did it all. My goodness me. How could he use that cute cookie jar for such nefarious deeds? Right. But that is always an option. I mean, I don't know. I imagine that the cookie jar would be owned by a little kid or something, but maybe it is owned by, you know, the spellcaster as well. We could go any route. It's whatever we say is the most thrilling and the most interesting. Are all antagonists going to be related with each other? Nope. I assume that Raindrop Chronicles will be a game with many antagonists of different factions and with different motives. I mean, we've got a couple of reptiles confirmed with Chub Cheeks and Rex, but we'll also have other antagonists that have other motives, that live in other parts of the world and are doing other deadly, horrible deeds. So this particular antagonist is related to all the, his motive is to get rich. He's involved heavily in the Raindrop's currency drama. But we do have Careless Rex's reptile antagonist as well. And How he's going to fit in, we don't know, but we know he's a reptile, and he probably knows Chub Cheeks because he's a reptile like him. So it'll all tie in, and I'm sure Rex's character will make an appearance somehow. But maybe he's related more to the rivalry going on in Lakefall, whereas Chub might be more directly involved in the currency business. But it'd be cool if it could all tie in. What's all these droplets dripping down? Who knows? Let's find out. The most wholesome type drop. That's good, leg mark. I want to be wholesome. Well, kind of spoiler of my character, but my character's an antagonist, but he ain't related to the others. Going to be finishing soon. Yeah, exactly, Storm. I encourage you guys to have freedom with what you want your character's motives to be. And because this is an epic fantasy adventure, and I adore epic fantasies where characters have their own motives, then it's perfect for that. We're not going to just have the one story. We'll have obviously a main quest, but we'll have all these side quests and different plots going on as well, so there's definitely room for lots of different characters. Alchemy is not spells, but they're both occult, so you can use them together. That being said, you have any kind of magic system you want. Yeah, the good thing about fantasy is we can be as wacky, we're making things up as we want, as I guess. But if that's true, we could confirm this today. We can say Chub is the big bad behind this scheme, and the spellcaster is an associate. We could have it be that way. Do I need to think of a faction name? We can all think of a faction name together, guys. That is usually a good way to do it, because we can get a poll up then. If we've got any cool, if there's multiple ideas, we usually put a poll up. Going to be uploading my character later tonight or tomorrow, and it's on Tyler, so maybe something will change. Oh, cool. Awesome, Storm Eagle. I'm going to have a browse at the character sheets, because obviously if any of the ones that have been written I've still got to do tie into the plot well, then that will always be nifty as well. Or maybe people think I'm a reptile, but really I'm an imposter. Who knows? Maybe you've got the armor on because you want people to think you're a human, but really you're reptile and deep, but really you're not. You've got another layer underneath the reptile and you're another race. That would be crazy. What if what if it was like Scooby-Doo, when you pull off all these different masks? I swear that there was a Scooby-Doo episode where they were pulling off loads of different masks, and it was crazy. Would it make sense to have a crime ring be making low-level vampires for cheap labour? Then Carol could insult Rose by calling her by the name of her job. Yeah, I think when it comes to insult, mean words for Carol to use, simple ones that have a sort of offensive tone is perfect. I mean, I'm not against using real life terms, but it's always more fun, I think, to make up fictional ones, as long as they work and don't feel out of place, so I guess that's the challenging bit. But I am gonna copy and paste what you said, Matt, because the vampire lore and any factions or antagonists about with the vampire lore is definitely something that could do with being fleshed out, so I'll keep a note of that. I was thinking of Knights of the Old Reptilia, but with more time I could think of better. I'm a Scooby-Doo villain, lol. Well, no, you definitely fit the knight thing because you are armoured up. Some reptiles might be naked, that are more of a bandit type of reptile, but maybe they're lower ranks. Maybe you're a high rank. I'm gonna note that down too. I mean, that's the thing. Are there different factions of reptiles as well? Or maybe the reptiles are all one big faction. It would be interesting if some of the reptiles had conflicting values as well, because then that would make them feel a little bit more realistic, rather than them all being one joined up thing. Because as human beings, we don't all share the same values either, do we? So, you know, some reptiles might clash as well. Who knows? Okay, I'm going to make it my mission to make a Who Knows audio communication from the forest is coming soon, are you? I just said it again, didn't I? I said Who Knows again, Lagmog. Oh my god, Lagmog, I'm so looking forward to that. Hi, Kung, how you doing? It's good to see you. So it looks like we need at least 2 factions. The smugglers that Carol is a part of and the people trying to illegally collect raindrops, with an optional third being the alchemist counterfeiters. I gotta make a document back so if I can to give a basic idea about who I am. Yeah, cool, Chub, especially if you are going to be this particular antagonist that we're talking about today, because then we can really get a good idea in mind and our views won't clash with yours. So yeah, defo feel free and get that up in the Discord if you do it, Chub. But I'm going to refer back to what Zexy said now, because my brain is turning to mush again. So let's simplify this and think about what exactly is involved. So 2 factions, Zexy said, smugglers that Carol is a part of, and the people trying to illegally collect raindrops, with an optional third being the alchemist counterfeiters. Okay, so all these aren't in the same faction then. Hang on, who are the smugglers that Carol is a part of? I'm trying to remember now. Do you mean the people who were originally riding this cart that Carol is being transported on? Or the people that kidnap Carol's companions? Is that who you mean? I just want to make sure everything's 100% clear in my head. We'll get, even if we have to write a little bit of text here to write down some rough notes, we will. But the goal for today's stream is to get the flashback sequence decided, I guess. So that this green text here, which is literally just a short period of time before episode 1 begins, we're going to have this flashback. Carol is going to go into the past and tell us about it, and we're going to view this scene as a flashback, I guess. We will actually see that in the next part of the story, and we will see how these folks got separated from Carol. So Carol is later separated from her companions and is convinced Rose knows where they are. That's the only bit with Rose so far. So how are we going to expand on this? The people who kidnap Carol would be the illegally collecting, and the people that Carol is working with would be the smugglers. I got memory of a goldfish with brain damage. What did you name your character again? If you want to have a look at your character sheet, it is in the Discord and in characters channel, Chub, and yours is here, Chub Cheeks. You can also view it on the Trello page too, but you are Grandmaster Cheeks. That is your name, and we will definitely have to give you a hamster mount at some point in the game. Where that will show up, we don't know, but yeah, that would be pretty cute. Right. So hang on, let's get these factions sorted first. Yeah, so the people that kidnap Carol, I imagine that the antagonist that did the spell, and the one Chub involved in doing the illegal raindrop stuff, they hired these people. So would they be, I suppose they're of a lower rank if that's the case, but they did hire them. It's of their command that they did the stealing, the kidnapping, should I say. Kidnapping makes more sense, but stealing also works too. The people that Carol is working with would be the smugglers. Okay, so this is the bit I'm confused at. Carol's working with people. This is news to me. Maybe I haven't clicked, but I assume she's on the cart just for innocent reasons, and she's just she don't know what's going on. She's just a barrel. She's just happy being with her family. she don't know that anything why she's being taken where she is or what's going on. But I assumed Carol wouldn't be aware of any motive behind why she was being transported place to place, because I like to keep Carol quite innocent, and her companions, you know, like them not being aware of all the illegal activity that's going on around them, because it kind of keeps them cute and charming to be living in their own little world, while all these horrible things are happening and they're being used and abused. Bless them. Okay, so optional verb being the alchemist count. Okay, so I just need to check the detail. Are areas that have more rain richer areas because they get more drops? If the world and government was not fair and not fair with their distribution, then yes, that would be the case. And I do think that would be a good way, the better way, in my opinion, because it just makes the world more dystopian. It makes it more interesting, you know, than if everything was fair. So I think, yes, that the areas that have more rainfall are richer. But this is the thing, because it should be a fair world, you know. That's why the government and bank own special containers, so they can be the ones that do the raindrop collecting and keep everything very fair and structured and proper. And, you know, that's how it's all done in the world. But I imagine that realistically it isn't fair. Just like in real life, people think it's fair, but it's not. And there's always corrupt things going on behind the scenes. And that was one concept I really did like, heavy rainfall areas generally being richer, because naturally, you know, it would be. I liked the fact that deserts would struggle because they wouldn't get the raindrops. In all honesty, if the world was fair, there would be some raindrops that did get distributed to them, but I could imagine that they'd just get left and forgotten, you know. And it would be the rain heavy areas that would benefit, because that would probably be where the government live, where the heavy rain is, and where their headquarters are, like the majority of the corrupt people in the world, because especially the very money driven ones. It's relevant to the origin story I'm writing, that's why I gotta know. Yep, say yes, because I think that we would likely go with that route. Richer. I mean, if there's any plot holes at all and we have to tidy up the reason why it's like that, then fair enough, we'll do that. But I that's always the kind of vision I imagined of a world where the non-heavy rainfall areas were generally poorer, because it's a weather-based currency. It is hard to manage. Hey Neffel, how are you doing? It's good to see you, and thank you Squareox for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? Another way you could have it is raindrops are needed to create rain. So people who have a lot of raindrops have better control over the weather and can make rain more. So it's not that deserts are poor, but the poor are turned into deserts. Yeah, that's true too. It's like just seeing it as another thing. I'm going to copy and paste that as well, Zexy, because that's an interesting point. My brain can't absorb it completely what you're trying to say, but I kind of get the idea, so I want to reread that. I think that it's that could work as well. If my character ever doesn't fit, feel free to make necessary changes. Yeah, I'm sure there will always be slight adjustments, but I will always try and keep true to the story and what we want and our visions, and try and somehow make it so any plot holes we do come across, we can always find a way around it somehow. I'm sure we can. I'm good, you. I'm doing good, Neffel. How are you doing? Okay, so let's think. I'm going to start writing down. I'm going to start filling in these green boxes now, guys. And if anything catches your eye that I've written, then feel free to expand on it. If you want to expand on any of the factions or groups of people more as well that I might refer to in here, feel free to do that. Because I know that we've briefly started discussing the people that are involved in this little scenario. And it will be good to simplify things and organise it and get everything as organised as possible, so it's not just a bundle of chaos and mess in our heads. It looks so interesting what you're doing. Thank you, Squirrels. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. If you want to have a read about our project, anybody that's here that's new today, feel free to have a look at that. I do want to get a website up and running very soon. We've already got the domain and the host. Just got to get all the info on there and make it pretty. So I want that website so I can show it to you guys that are new, and so you can get all informed about the game and as quick as possible, I guess. But we have a bunch of Google Docs and a YouTube video about the story so far right now. Feel free to have a peep. Welcome to the stream. It's good to meet you. I have some free time. I'm going to try and fill in a character form today. Awesome, Neffel. Definitely fill in your character forms, guys, if you have an idea for a character and you've reached the 500 raindrops. I will add you to the Trello page or Twitch name, and you'll be in our list. And I'll be gradually working on those character sheets and getting them ticked off and added. We can have quite a big list, I'd say, because there's definitely a lot of people that are working on character sheets at the moment. Okay, so right, so Carol is later separated from her companions and he's convinced Rose knows where they are. So that actually happens in the present day. Well, she confronts Rose in the present day anyway. So I'll make that one blue, I think, just because that's a present day one. I'm trying to colour code these little boxes to relate with where we are in the time period. I think that was okay. And then it would go into the flashback stuff. Just trying to think of the best way to organise this. It can be a challenge. I just want it to be as clear as possible how all this all ties together. But obviously, if you think there's a better way to organise it, feel free to say. Okay, so flashback begins. I'm getting peckish already. I really look forward to seeing that website. Thank you, Squirrels. I'm going to try and make it look as pretty as possible. I want it to look awesome, guys. So I'm excited to get that up and running too. What are the raindrops used for? Are they magical or are they literally just money? Literally just money. They're just the way people, you know, instead of gold and silver and all the typical solid currencies that we have in normal games and in normal worlds, it's water, it's liquid here. And obviously it's only the fresh fallen raindrops that have the special element in them that are valuable. It's not just any rainwater that's fallen, it's only the special one. And that's why the government have all the control, because they're the ones that own the special containers that can keep the special element in them. And then it all gets distributed, I assume, once, you know, the raindrop has been stored in those containers, and when when the time's right, it'll get distributed. But I'm assuming the rainfall areas, that's where it all takes place. And they, you know, they've got the most money, let's face it, because that's where the government are based, and all the big guys. Quote from Rose. Hiya, Thran, welcome to the stream. How you doing? Do they come from happy little clouds? Ah, they do. They come from the clouds. I like that emote too. Welcome. Freshly fallen raindrops contain X. Oh yeah. Thank you, Zexy, for putting that quote in. I appreciate that. For sure, because it's all written here, guys, but I know that because we're kind of scrolling down a lot, you're not going to see all the information we've got here. So do people carry the raindrops with them, or do they write to checks? They will carry actual raindrops. It will be stored in, they will keep it in bottles or water sacks and that. I'm assuming that once, hang on, let me just think. I'm actually wondering this myself now. That's a good question. How, once it's distributed to the public, how it's contained. I assumed it would be in a sort of like water sack or some kind of wallet or purse that's able to hold water. But whether those containers that the public have are all, I don't know. How's this all going to work? I assume that once it's been held in the special container, that they're okay to have it after a certain amount of time. I'm actually confused here myself now. I'm gonna have to get my brain into gear with this one. But yes, has anyone got any ideas? I'm sure there's a way, but it's one thing I've noticed when I do these story and idea heavy streams, my brain starts melting after a while, and I'm not even sure myself what's going on anymore. So yeah, sometimes that ends up happening. So I'll have to rely on you guys to fill in the plot gaps for me when my brain starts turning to mush. Hello, Rose. I love your name because Rose is so beautiful. So, yeah, how you doing, Netcon? It's good to see you. Hope you're having a good day. Roses are nice flowers. I agree. I imagine it would be closer to banker's notes, which were kind of like checks. This is always so very interesting. Yeah, it's something we might, I mean, I like the idea of it all being raindrop based, everything, the currency. I don't know if I like the paper or anything that's not water coming into it, but I don't know, is it flawed if we actually hold the water as a general member of society, like say us, the hero in the game? We will have currency, of course, because that's how we'll buy weapons, how we'll buy items, and how we'll buy all the neat stuff we want in the game. And is there a plot hole with holding actual raindrops, say in a bottle or a sack ourselves? Does that mean the X that's valuable in those raindrops is gone now because it's in a normal random container owned by a random person of society? Or is the X still in them because it's gone through the process of being in a special container for long enough, so now it's fine? I don't know. I'm trying to get my head around that one myself. I'm surprised I haven't asked that question before, actually, or maybe I have, but I've just forgot what the reason was for why we did it that way. Maybe it's just that. Okay, I was thinking if they didn't actually keep the water with them, then the element could have been fake to begin with, which would be set up for a really big rain check pun. I hope Gay Big progresses could be swiftly. Good times to you all. Hope you'll do good. Feel a bit out of place, so just stop and say a beautiful day evening. Have a good day too, Diver. Oh no, we haven't made you feel out of place, have we? So containers plus water is money, rather than the containers are wallets. Water sacred dispensers on the end, that works like a dripper to dispense drops. Counterfeit RPG. Raindrop ring. The main problem in land water to be stored in sacks with that someone could use a few bags to line a bigger container due to Square Club law reasons. Okay, guys, my brain is just exploding right now with all the ideas. I appreciate you all, of course, coming up with these plot holes for me to figure out, but it gets to a point I'm not even sure. I can't even absorb them anymore, and this is something, of course, we're gonna have to figure out. Because it's important. We need to think about how we're going to have this currency. And I visioned, I'm going to make clear what my vision is here. My vision was for you, because you're the player in the game, you will have raindrops on you in your inventory as your currency, and to exchange in shops with merchants, to buy weapons, to buy armor, and to buy stuff. That was the plan from day one. When we came up with this currency, I didn't want checks or paper or anything normal as the currency. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a raindrop currency if we're going to just end up having paper as our currency anyway. So if there is a way to have this whole concept that we've got written down here, and also hold raindrops ourselves as the hero, that would be perfect, because we're keeping rain as our currency 100%, and that's kind of what I'm wanting to do here. I mean, whether there's a way to figure out, I'm sure there is if there's a way to do it. That's the question. But maybe you guys have said, maybe you've already said, but because my brain's not absorbing ideas at the moment, I'm not taking it in, so I apologise in advance if you've come up with a solution and I've ignored it or I haven't took it in. But what I do usually do is I look back at the VOD when my brain's gone settled and gone back to normal, and I start trying to take in the ideas properly again. The banks have massive containers which store the bulk of the raindrops. X can be extracted from some of the raindrops and used to enchant smaller bottles or containers. So banks can hold thousands of litres, but individuals have much smaller containers which may only be able to hold 2 litres or so. This is what's available for general public. We, the hero, also have Carol, who can hold raindrops. That is part of the spell that brought her to life. That is true as well, because she is our inventory, and she offers herself to us to carry, well, not just the raindrops, but generally all the loot we've got, which makes it a bit confusing, because if she has got raindrops in her, then how is she going to have all the other items too? They'll all be weighing there with the raindrops. So it's trying to visualise how that's going to work as well. But that is a very true point. But Zexy, what you've said, I know that when I've read that and I understand it, it's going to make complete sense. But right now it's not, just because I'm suffering from brain melt syndrome, which always happens during these kind of streams, guys. It always happens. During plot or writing streams, I always get brain melt eventually, after a bit of time. And it's simply because you're coming up with all these ideas. Eventually the brain can only well, my brain anyway. My brain can only take in so much info at a time. I don't know if anybody here can relate to that, but yeah, but I'm gonna copy and paste again exactly what you said. And obviously, if you do want to expand on this in the Raindrop, the Ideas channel and the Discord, feel free to as well, because sometimes I really like reading in there after stream when my brain's gone back to normal. And thank you, friend, for the follow. I appreciate that. Well, it is an RPG, so think about how currency is used in other RPGs. Hi, Andy Cake. How are you doing? Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. You literally don't see the currency physically in the games, do you? You just like go to the shop and you buy stuff, and that's it. You see a little UI icon of what your currency looks like, maybe, and the number of how many you've got. But I visualize that UI as a raindrop icon. I've even already done that icon. It's an actual raindrop that shows how many raindrops you've got currency wise. So that's basically how we've got it. So that shirt is really rosy. It is. It's a red one. It's a burgundy red. The colour of my blood. Okay, so I mean, it's not like it's a massive deal when it comes to what the money physically looks like the hero's got, considering we don't really see it apart from the UI. But I like to think about these things anyway, because I think when you're doing world building and writing a story, it's still important to consider how it all works as a society and as an economy, and that, even if it isn't shown in the game. So I'm definitely gonna read what Lexi's put as well, because it seems that Zexi's got a solution from there, but when my brain's gone back to normal, I'll read it. I've copied and pasted it anyway. My favourite colour, bloody red. Red's a great colour. Okay, so we're writing the flashback. And flashback begins. Okay. Right, so we said that the location is a cart. A cart on the road on the trade route between the Everbloom Forest and a nearby town or a farm. Anywhere that, you know, because if the containers are holding goods, that's where they'd be going, unless there's another motive for where the cart's going. I know that it's been mentioned that Rose might be a prisoner on the cart, so there might be somewhere else that they're going, and it might not be for good merchant motivated reasons. It might be for bad reasons, but that's still up for discussion, where the cart's going and who's riding the cart. But I imagine Carol being on the cart and her companions. Don't really know the ins and outs of why they're on the cart. They're just barrels at the end of the day. They're just happy being a little family together. Okay, Carol and her companions are... Do we talk in the past tense here or not? Have we been doing it here? Yeah, I'm kind of talking in the present tense with this flashback. Let's get this centered. I don't think it is right now. There we go. Carol and her companions are on a cart on the road. So I put question mark there because if anybody has a more thrilling idea for what's going on with this cart, where it's going, and maybe then I'm definitely up for that. But that was just my first idea, that it was a trade route and the barrels are just being taken to a farm. Maybe they've got goods, or they're coming back from the farm and going back to Everbloom Forest and Lake for people. But that's a pretty simple way to handle it. Pretty innocent and simple. There's no nefarious stuff going on in that kind of one. Also, NPCs don't need to carry around all their currency like you could carry 1,000 around every day, or do you only take a few fivers? NPC only need to be able to carry enough money to get them through the average day. Yeah, I think like that's where the whole concept of banks is interesting, because I don't know if you guys know, but there is a building in the Everbloom Forest that I was intending to be a kind of bank, and that would be where the hero would get their currency from to get more raindrops. And they do sort of hunts, like kill X amount of toxic plants to get 100 raindrops or however much, and there'd just be like these little hunt quests to get that the bank want you to do, because as a community they want you to kill the monsters, and you've earned your share of money if you do a job for them, kind of thing. That was one concept we have as a way to earn money. And also you could earn money from quests, of course, like if you do side quests, that's another way of earning it, or even trading in loot in shops, that's another way too. But it kind of feels like we need that something extra other than just getting money from quests and for selling loot in shops. It feels like gaining it from some sort of hunt quest could help give us a bit more money and maybe flesh out how raindrops are generally distributed. I don't know. Games like Zelda of a wallet cap containers would be a good way to explain why there is a cap. Hi Lude, how are you doing? As somebody that's never played Zelda, I'm ashamed, but that's a fact. I'm not sure about that mechanic, but it sounds interesting. I wrote a 250 word origin story. Is that too much or too little? That's fine, Chub. That's totally fine. I mean, Akira and Azriel with their characters wrote a massive long document that a page is long. There's no limit, Chub. You feel free to flesh out your character however you want. Bounty jobs, yeah, Necron. Basically, that's kind of what the idea was, and it would just be a form of side quest in the game that would give you extra monies and stuff if you wanted it. But it wouldn't be your only source of money, of course. You'd still get money from shopkeepers if you sold them any items and quests. We have quests. Raindrop ATMs, doing great. How are you? I'm doing a Lude Charizard. Having an interesting stream. I always like these streams, even though I suffer from melted brain after a while. I still enjoy them. So Google Docs, so I just add more of a time. Yeah, feel free to do that for sure, Chub. I'll have a peek at that as well, because especially if we're going to make you this particular antagonist, which I think we might be, it'll be useful for me to have a browse at as soon as possible. But you're not entirely relevant to this particular flashback, because you wouldn't be in it yourself. You'd have just hired people to do the stuff for you, but it's probably still important I read it because you are linked. You're a connection to all this. I'll do a blurb in Discord at some point explaining trading companies and banks from like the 17th century. Awesome, thank you, Zaxi. I mean, I'm no pro when it comes to stuff like this, so it's always good to learn from people that are more knowledgeable. But yeah, mainly I guess it's making sure that there's no plot holes with how the currency is distributed to the general public, and I do want to keep it as raindrops. You know, if we can figure out a good way to this X element, what we have, if as long as it remains once the player has it. So yeah, we'll think about it. I'm sure we can have a think. Where do I post this doc? Let's I would say the general idea discussion chub is probably the best place to put it. I don't think we've got a skill discussion and a dialogue discussion, so if anything's ever relevant in those ones, you can pop it in there. But general is probably the best place to put it, chub. Yeah, I think that's where Akira and Azrael put it as well. Okie doke. So character commands are on a cart on the road, on the trade route between Emily and Vice and near by Varmtown. And same for this, guys, this flashback that I'm writing now. If like you're like, oh, actually, what about this? You know, feel free to expand on that in the ideas channel as well. I once heard that the shape of water crystals change depending on the energy of the environment surrounding it, so you could say that water has potential to rearrange itself in the presence of energy. Imagine that the government find a way to manipulate that ability to some unknown purposes, but it can only be extracted from virgin water. Does that make sense to you, Zach? See, because I've got Brian Bell, so I'm still trying to get my head around that, but I mean, I think this whole concept here in the black boxes is very simple, and some of it are really cool. But it's just like getting over that. You know, it seems like we've just got a tiny plot hole when it comes to them getting distributed to people, which surprises me because I thought we'd sorted this out perfectly. I'm surprised myself because I really got organised and did a complete think out of how it all works, and that's, well, where is it? It's all here, basically all this thing here. So I'm surprised that wasn't something I considered actually, or something I didn't ask you guys earlier. I swear I have, you know, I swear I have, and it's just got lost, that particular concept. Yep. Because I like to keep things simple as possible if I can. I don't want to get too convoluted with concepts or do too much explaining in the game. I want it to try and be super straightforward. Well, as straightforward as we can get it, really. But it can be a challenge as well to do that. Also, keep in mind, suspension of disbelief is a thing. You can have plot holes. Most players won't think too much about the economy of the world, so they'll ignore plot holes because the game's fun, so you don't have to worry too much about getting everything perfect. Yeah, that's true as well. And another reason why fantasy genre is great, because you can be a bit far-fetched and unbelievable without being judged too harshly. If you was doing sci-fi, I think people prefer you to be a little bit more realistic, but with fantasy it's fine. But yes, it's true, we don't need to go into super detail. We won't even have to explain to the player via dialogue how it all works. I feel like it would be unnecessary exposition, is that the word, if we did do that. But at the same time, it's still nice to have a whole process written up anyway, just so us as the writers know how the law and how it all works, you know, so that the world feels real. Also, just about anything can be explained away with magic. Yeah, that's true as well, which we've kind of introduced with the spell anyway, so it simplifies it, that's for sure, having the spell. A wizard did it, but I don't know, plot holes. Talking about the X element, yeah, I'll definitely have a reread of that squares for sure, because I've just got brain melt, guys. Forgive me. Anything that's too like long or descriptive or a lot to take in can be a bit much after a while. I'm usually fine at the start of our plot and writing streams, but it's usually after a couple of hours that's when I get the brain melt. Okay. But I know I have to read the story you've created so far first. Well, luckily you've come quite early, and basically everything that's on this page here and the particular story so far video we've got here is really all the main stuff that's in that we've done plot wise so far. So yeah, it's not too complicated at this point. Over time, of course, we'll get more and it'll be super fleshed out. But that's why I definitely want to get keep up with those videos so that people can watch them and be more up to date. I mean, looking at what's in the chart, I don't see any plot holes. There are questions, but they're secondary, like, oh, but what if raindrop forgery? But that doesn't need to be addressed. I can assume they're anti-counterfeit measures. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, for sure. Definitely don't be afraid to point out any plot holes if you do see, or afraid to ask any questions. Even though I've got the brain melt at the moment, don't let that scare you off from saying anything in chat, because literally I'll just copy and paste it and read it later. Wizards did it. But I know I have to read, yeah. Also, you said you were peckish, but you didn't get a snack. I know. I'll just get carried away. I get excited and carried away doing this, guys. So I don't get my snack. I'm not even that hungry at the moment, though. But don't worry. When I'm hungry, I'll get one. I'll get one for sure. I got my dinner at 6 anyway. Oh my god, how is it already 5:20? Okay, Carol and her companions are on a cart on the road on a trade route between Valoon Friars and a nearby farm town. Okay, I'm kind of attached to doing these boxes though, because it separates things up a bit rather than just having a big lump of text for you all to read. So the next bit of the flashback sequence they'd have a bit of banter. Like, so the flashback would start, we'd see the cart that they're on the cart, so we'd see them all there, and they'd be talking because there'd be no one else there, or as far as they're aware, nobody's there. So they're having a bit of banter among them as a family, and we get to be introduced to each of the characters. We get to find out their little quirks. So let's say and are having a conversation. So after a little bit of dialogue exchange, we want to have some funny, witty dialogue lines. We want to make you guys laugh. We want to make the player laugh. So we'll have to think of some really awesome dialogue with these guys. These guys here, if you haven't seen them yet, guys, let's just zoom in. So who's your favourite, everybody? We've already kind of had a discussion about what their characters are like, but I'm sure there's definitely room to add more detail. And we're definitely going to bring up the oil drum with Meryl. Elvira and Meryl, that will get brought up. Something about Woody as well. Probably have to introduce the fact that he's called Woody and that he's a cardboard box, and so it's just kind of the introduction of them all. So yeah, that will be coming up, but we don't have to think too detailed about the dialogue just yet. I think the first aim is getting the sequence of events perfected first, and then we'll start with thinking of the actual dialogue once we've thought of that. So maybe tomorrow we'll do dialogue. Maybe tomorrow. Is everybody ready for that? Because we definitely want some witty conversation going on. Well, I once saw a hole in the plot, but I just buried the seed and covered it up and the hole was gone. I do think it can be good to leave some things at display so people can theorise and talk about things in the future fan forums about this game. That's true as well, Sexy. I mean, as long as, like, say, if the hero, we're holding raindrops in our little water sack, say, and we put that water sack inside Carol along with all our other items, as long as people don't get saying, oh, so this is really flawed because so-and-so, the hero shouldn't have raindrops because it wouldn't have X in them anymore, or I don't know, it's just like, I want to make sure there's nothing like that, that it's nice to have, like, in our heads how it all works and the process, just so we know, just so, you know, for our own, to ease our own minds that there's no plot holes. But for sure, I'm definitely not a fan of explaining things lore-wise in games. I feel like that's up for the player to work out, you know, from living in the world without getting just shoved in their face by an NPC. I wouldn't like to explain it like that because that's unnecessary, boring exposition. But it's nice to just to know it all works and there's no flaws. Soggy box, obviously. Yeah, you like it, C4, the soggy box. I like Woody. Meryl's my favourite character, but Handy's my favourite asset. Is it weird that I find Woody kind of handsome? Do you? That's amazing. I'm glad that you find him handsome because Woody's an interesting character. Oh my god, his husband down material now. I'd never thought that was going to be a thing. I thought he was going to be a big goofball, but it turns out he's handsome. But that's good because it means there's a layered character with a lot of complexities. I mean, he's a contradiction. He's like, he thinks he's handsome, like he really thinks he's handsome. I mean, look at that face. That is somebody that thinks there's some sort of stud. But really, he's not meant to be a stud. He's a soggy box. He's made out of cardboard. He's inferior to the others because he's not as solid and can't hold things as well. And he's got a crush on Carol, probably. He says, is it going to be Meryl or Carol he's got a crush on? But probably Carol. And Carol isn't interested, and Meryl isn't interested either. She prefers the oil drum. So, you know, he's not really very desired among the barrel folk. But he really thinks he is and really wants to be. It's all a front. It's all a big front to make himself feel better than he actually is, because he's insecure, really. it's funny. It's that smile. Brainstorming some soggy bangers. It's Carol's secrets after sight is Woody's soggy bottom. Oh my goodness. Carol's lovely. I mean, she's horrible, but she's lovely for sure. But she's horrible in a really, you know, awesome way where we're entertained by her. I think that's the goal with Carol, to always be entertained by her silly hostile dialogue. We don't want it to be like full on abusive and dislikable, though. I think we'd have to draw a line if it got to that stage with Carol. We always wanted to keep her weird charm. Deep barrel lore. I might have to get myself a snack soon because I can tell I'm getting a peckish one, but first let's get this box done. Okay, so Carol and Clemens are on the road and are having a conversation. There is some commotion outside. But would they... I'm thinking of the cart, how it would look now, because if Carol gets knocked off, there would have to be a kind of way for her to fall off the cart. That's the question. I'm going to have to make sure we make that possible. So it can't be too closed in this cart. It has to be kind of open somehow. So she rolls off, unless the door opens when the hijacker races off and Carol falls out, and then I don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll think of a way. There's some commotion outside. The cart gets... when the cart gets... Okay, so I think that pretty much sums it up. There's some commotion outside when the cart gets hijacked. Carol's accidentally rolls out the cart and is left behind. So the cart races off without Carol. We also need to put that Rose is on the cart as well. So maybe we have to do that in the second box actually and make that the third box. Rose is on the cart. So that is really all we know so far. We need to flesh this out more. Questions? Do the barrels know Rose is on the cart, or is Rose hiding? Is Rose a stowaway on the cart, or is she a prisoner? Is she... You know, do the barrels get all shy and stop talking and hide themselves once they realise Rose is on the cart? The fact is Rose is on there, and the flashback has to show at some point that Rose is on this cart, because that's how it all ties in. Rose gets taken with the... she gets taken with the barrels, but presumably escapes. Well, she must have, because she's in Everbloom Forest now with Carol and the hero. So Carol just wants to know all the details. She's like, where are my family? Where are they? But Rose can't talk, so drama. Rose is your character though, so why do you think she was there? Well, that's just it, because there's a lot of gap there with Rose, and I've left a lot of gap in her character on purpose so that we can all decide together to make it as awesome as possible. That is why Raindrop Chronicles is going to be the best game, because it's going to be a combination of ideas where the awesome one always comes out on top. Rose could take Carol off the cart to steal her contents in a coincidental double robbery. Hang on, let's read that again. Rose could take Carol to steal her content in a coincidental... Rose is innocent. How do you read these boxes? What's the colours mean? I've colour coded it to link with the time. I've kind of done this one for the 6-month period in the timeline, and the orange one for that one, and the green for this one, and the blue's the present day one. So I think that's just the easiest way to organise it. What I thought of anyway. But I think Rose needs to remain... We need to stay in character. That's the important thing. I mean, I know we can get wacky. There's no problem with getting super wacky, but at some points. But we still want to remain believable. So let's just look at Rose's character sheet to just think, to help inspire some ideas maybe. Okay, so she was a farmer, and she became feral when she absorbed the farm animals' blood, basically, because they're not the most intelligent of animals, so it's made her feral. And she's since spent her days wandering the lands alone, feeding off wild creatures. So she kind of originates from farmlands, which fits, because we've even got here that maybe it's a trade route between Everbloom Forest and a nearby farm town. And because Everbloom Forest is very foresty, it would realistically potentially be next to a farmland. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary for that to be the next zone or a nearby zone. And maybe Rose, maybe Carol and her companions are regularly going on this trade route. Like, they were brought to life in the Everbloom Forest in particular, but maybe they regularly go to and from this farm and the Everbloom Forest. And they were one day in the farm, and this particular flashback is the day they come back from the farm and go back to the Everbloom Forest to transport goods back to the Everbloom Forest. And Rose, being from the farm, would make sense for her to like be there. So yeah, that could work. And there doesn't have to be like a reason. We could just keep it simple and make her just be a stowaway. But I'm not against like having some big plot be behind it either. I guess it all depends if it's good and if it makes sense and if it works, you know. I don't know if Carol could even have anything that's a feral anything that a feral vampire would particularly want. Yeah, Rose is a simplistic person. She's not a thief. She doesn't really care about possessions. So I think it would probably be out of character if she's up to no good or doing things or stealing. She would only steal for survival, I'd say. Like, all she cares about is surviving. So yeah, she probably would steal if it meant she would starve to death. Then she would steal livestock or whatever. But a barrel itself and anything inside a barrel might become a bit useless to somebody like Rose. And I think maybe it could be just by chance that she was on this cart with these barrels. Maybe. Just coincidence. Who knows? Rose was a farmer before she was turned into a vamp. Maybe a farm was nearby to the road. Rose was hunting and was near the road when the attack happened. She hid, and after the fight, ran from her spot, and that's when Carol saw her. Yeah, it sounds like you came to a similar conclusion. Yeah, that's a possibility too. That from what I'm reading there, she doesn't necessarily have to be on the cart. She could have been wandering the lands or the farmlands nearby when the cart was hijacked. That's also a possibility to do, but how would she know where the barrels are? Because she would be in the same position as Carol then if she was just wandering the lands during the hijacking and Carol fell out. Rose wouldn't know anything that Carol wouldn't know either. Rose knows all the info. That's something we need to, that we know for sure. She's got information that will help Carol find her family. She knows everything. It's just that she can't communicate. That's the thing here. She can't communicate to Carol where they are because she can't talk, but she does know. She knows exactly, well, as far as Carol's aware, she knows exactly where they are. So that's kind of why it worked for me that she was on the cart, because when that cart was hijacked, she was with them. So she would have to know where it got taken and, everything that happened since that point. But if she was outside and not on the transport, she would not know anything else that Carol wouldn't know. She would have just been a witness to the hijacking incident, but she wouldn't necessarily know anything more. Guess Carol wouldn't be stuffed with chickens or anything like that. Hiding in the cart could be how she sneaks back to her family farm each week. Yeah, it could literally be as simple as, which I think I mentioned briefly earlier, that Rose is just a bit lazy and she's been on the farm and she is wanting to go to another area and just hops on the cart so she doesn't have to walk. Being on transport or being a stowaway is a good way for her to not get captured either. It was because she's a vampire, she's a prey, she's easy prey for humans. They all want to kill her and lock her up because they see her as some feral animal that needs putting down. So being like hidden away in a cart is probably safer for somebody like Rose, because if she was out in the open, it's more dangerous for her, especially in the daytime. If it was night, she probably wouldn't mind as much because she can hide and be a bit, be a bit of a ninja, but she can't. In the day, she's exposed. So hiding away in a corner of a cart could be believable. So I've kind of changed what I want my character's deepest, darkest secret to be, because I think it kind of contradicts my character. Is it too late to change it? It's fine, Chub. Like, I'd say, I'd advise that it isn't made into a habit. Like, once the character sheet's done, normally I'd say it's done. Just so I don't have to keep changing the character sheets all the time. Because if you can imagine, it would get a bit hectic if everybody was changing their minds. But I'd say, if like there's just a small change and it doesn't change your character too drastically, then it's okay. As long as the character mostly remains the same, then a small little change of goal or motivation wouldn't hurt. So that'd be okay, Chub. So yeah, half the doc is finished. So in 30 minutes I will upload my character. Yay! Low boss the beast boss technique is for lightweight. So I'm looking forward to reading it, Storm. I'll add you to our Trello list as well. Okay, folks. So, in that case, I mean, Rose not being on the cart would solve a lot of things in terms of the barrels would be able to have their conversation in the open without worry of a human watching them. But overall, she does need to be on the cart just so she knows information that Carol wants to know then. Which is why I explained just. So I guess the way to solve them not being shy about talking would be that they didn't realise Rose was on there. And maybe at some point during the conversation, Rose pokes her head out from behind something, or she's well hidden, and then just they realise she's there and they're like, oh, and they hide. That could be like a way of showing us as the player that these sentient objects are shy around humans as well. It can that will introduce that to us, because before that point we wouldn't know. We might think that they don't care about talking in front of people that much, but that would be an interesting way to bring up that as well. But yeah, I'm heading to eat lunch. Oh, enjoyed your lunch, Juice. I hope it's yummy. Right. The hijackers could change the cart's destination, so being on the cart before it was hijacked might not tell her where it went. Not sure how else she'd know, though. Oh, for sure. I for sure imagine the hijackers will change the destination, because they have a motive, they have an aim. I'm assuming Chub Cheeks or the spellcaster or whoever's a high rank in this situation would have told the hijackers, we need those barrels. We need those containers. You get them for us and bring them to us immediately. That's kind of what they've been given as a task. So that's what they've done. They've found the barrels. They're all in one place. So now it's easy that if they hijack this cart, they've got them all. They've got them. They can take them to their master. So they would go to a completely different location to what the original trade route is, for sure. Yeah, that was 100% what I had in mind as well anyway. Maybe she was captured. The caravan had some live chickens. Rose hadn't eaten in weeks, so she tried to get some of the chickens and was captured by a caravan guard. This doesn't have to be shown. The humans want to take her to a larger city to turn her in to get rewards. Yeah, so I think it would be cool if it was all flashed out a bit more, the stuff going on the cart before the hijacking, rather than them just being faceless humans. But I imagine, I don't know if you guys imagine, but I imagine when the hijackers come, they would murder the person that was originally riding the cart. Because they'd have to knock them off or kill them, because they're gonna steal the car and start riding it themselves to their location, their destination. So whoever, if this is true that Rose was captured and put on the cart by the person riding it, then that person would no longer be a threat to Rose anyway, if they've been murdered by the hijackers. So, yeah, I imagine them getting killed anyway. I don't know if you guys did. Well, if Rose acts feral, maybe the barrels don't mind talking in front of her. It'd be like talking in front of a cow. Carol later changes her opinion about Rose after she's been with the hero. Once Carol doesn't view her as an animal, that's when she confronts Rose and does the flashback. Yeah, in fact, I would imagine, I don't know about you, but I would imagine Carol would dislike Rose more if she was a human compared to an animal. I feel like there's a bit of, they're not very keen on humans. There's a bit of conflict between barrels and humans. And yes, I think they wouldn't fear talking in front of animals or monsters or anything like that. They would only be shy around humans or anybody that would hurt them or be a threat to them or reveal their secret that they're sentient. And Rose couldn't talk, but Carol and her friends wouldn't know that at first. They would see Rose and think, oh, that is a human. They wouldn't realise that she was somebody that was actually feral unless she showed them those feral traits, which is probably unlikely that Rose would reveal that she's feral immediately on first meeting. So, and Carol could have potentially spent that whole month before episode 1 begins thinking Rose was a human that could talk, and maybe she'd been seeking her. Maybe Carol's made it her mission to find Rose so she can find out, or maybe she's just subconsciously remembered Rose and it's like, oh, that's the person that was on the car. I'm going to ask them where my family are. And then she realises during that sequence with Fiona Buckington and the hero, when they find Rose captured in the cabin, that after all Rose can't talk, and she's like, damn it, this is useless. So I think Carol wouldn't realise that Rose was a feral non-speaker until this actual point here. Unless we decide it's better to reveal that Rose reveals that to the barrels in the cart. There's no problem with doing that, but we just have to make sure somehow we showed it or revealed it. But I wouldn't say it's 100% necessary. We could easily still get them to enjoy their little conversation and have a bit of banter, and that's the point where Rose shows herself, and then they shut up and be quiet, and then the hijacking can happen. You know what I mean? And we still would have experienced the charming conversation, and we'd have been introduced to all the characters, because we could just make that happen right at the start before they realise Rose is there. And then when that conversation's ended, Rose can show herself, they can hide themselves and shut up. I'd be like, oh crap, humans here, and just hide themselves, go back to being normal barrels. And then sounds happen, violence, and that's when the hijacking happens. They're like, what's going on? Everything goes crazy, the cart starts speeding off, and during all that commotion, Carol rolls off the cart and she's flat on the ground, and the cart's just driven off and they've gone, and she's like, crap, where are they? Where have they gone? And really that sort of situation makes Rose her only lead. You know, there's no other lead, is there? The only other lead would be the actual hijackers themselves, but I'm assuming Carol wouldn't have seen their face. She wouldn't have been able to get a good enough look to see who they were. And she doesn't have a clue where the cart's headed to either. Completely random destination because she doesn't know who's behind it. Could literally be anybody as far as Carol's aware. And when all this business happened, when the spell was cast, Carol wasn't sentient to that point, so she couldn't even think, oh, it was the antagonist that turned me into a human, because she probably wouldn't even know how she was born, which makes her a pretty fascinating character, because I don't know if you guys played Final Fantasy IX, but Vivi had like that kind of plot where he realised he wasn't really human and all that, and it was kind of very fascinating, and it would be interesting to go that kind of route with Carol as well, and her friends, to realise why they're here and realise it was all for something really awful and illegal, which is pretty tragic. It wasn't for good intentions why they were born into the world. Okay. Right, let's read the rest. Trade routes can take weeks or months. If Rose was on the cart, eventually the barrels would realise that Rose isn't acting like a human. Then they feel fine talking around her. You could write books. Oh, could I, Necron? That's okay. That's interesting. So, on average, how long would you say a trade route would be? You seem quite knowledgeable in that area. So how long would a trade route be? One thing I did do, in this particular bit of dialogue, Carol says to the hero, I can't believe how long I was forced to tolerate you on that cart. So that kind of confirms that trade routes are generally quite lengthy, because obviously she happened to be on a cart at that point as well. I'd say Carol has spent a lot of her life being on carts. Being a barrel, you know, that's kind of understandable. She gets transported between the two trade routes quite often, maybe. Poor Carol. I hope she's not travel sick. You could even have her have some dialogue where Woody's like, are you sure it's safe to talk around her? And Elvira's like, that thing has been acting like a beast for the past week. Can't even speak. It's not a human. That would show the player that Rose isn't viewed as a human by the barrels at that point. Oh, okay. I would totally be up for doing something like that. I want this flashback to be as fleshed out and us to get to know the barrel gang, like, and be attached to them. That's kind of the goal. To get attached to these characters during the flashback. So we don't want it to be over in no time. We want it, well, it doesn't have to be super long, but as long as there's been some really interesting dialogue and we've got to know them, and that's the goal. Because otherwise, if we don't get the player attached to them, they're not going to give a damn. They're going to, I don't care about this barrel story. Who cares about finding them? But if we can get them attached to these characters, then they will be like, yeah, I want to find these characters, because they've already formed this attachment, and because they're the motivation of the whole main plot. You know, it's important that we're attached to them, otherwise nobody's going to give a damn. They're the hook that's going to get people to play more. That name, what name? While an overall route might be a long time, though, I think tiny hamlets tend to pop up whenever traders tend to stop camp for that night. Oh, right. Yeah, I'm intrigued because I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to trade routes, but if you guys could give me an estimate time frame, or, you know, it doesn't have to be super accurate, but is it days? Is it weeks? Is it months? Like, having a good thing. I guess it depend on the distance as well, because I don't imagine that the Everbloom Forest and this particular farm town are super miles away. I would imagine it's probably the next zone, the next area, the next village city kind of area. well, not a city, it's probably more of a village or town. But thinking of the world map as a whole, I imagine wherever the Everbloom Forest is, that this farm or wherever it is that they're going to and all coming from all the time is that next place on the map. So it wouldn't like take bazillions of months or whatever to get to the local area, would it? That's what I'm wondering about. I'm intrigued. The name of evil, don't speak it. Who's evil? I really want to put a poll up as well to see who your everybody's favourite character is. I would do it on Twitter, but Twitter don't let you put up polls and images together, which is dookie butts. But yes, guys, oh my goodness me, how is it already this time? It's crazy. We've been rambling on for how long? But yeah, we've had a talk stream. It's definitely been a talk stream today. Lots of discussion, ideas. I think we've had a good discussion about what's going to be involved and where we should take things. We talked about potential plot holes or as well. What we've talked about today can definitely be expanded on, I think. It's going to be hard to talk about this for much longer because we're at the end of stream, but feel free to go in here, general ideas, decision, and thank you as well, Trouble. Have a peek at that as well, because I think it's going to be very relevant to have a look at that tonight, because then when we come back tomorrow, whatever's in here, we could potentially think about where it's going to go in the story. But feel free, guys, Zexy or anybody who wants to expand on the trade route thing, or even the Raindrop currency situation with distribution and that. If you want to expand on that, guys, feel free to. Of course, you're not forced. Nobody's forced. But if there's ever anything interesting you want to say that you think will really help the plot and the world building, then you I like seeing your ideas. But I have got something that's been done in stream. I've made note of it so I can reread things and take it into account. But I'm glad that you've mentioned a dialogue idea as well, because I would like to work on dialogue tomorrow, actually. I think tonight, between now and tomorrow's stream, I'm gonna finish off what I was writing in here, although we're pretty close to being done now. I'm gonna just tidy it up as much as we can so it makes sense as a sequence of events, and then we will literally start thinking about how the conversation, the dialogue and the scene is going to unfold. And we'll do this. We'll get something like this up and do boxes of dialogues and just exactly how we've done it before when we've written dialogue. But it's definitely going to be bigger than this. It's going to be a pretty long one, I'd say, this conversation is. This plot flashback. So yeah, that'll be fun, and I think it's definitely the right time to begin that as well. I mean, I know we haven't 100% filled in all the gaps, but we can do that at the same time while we're doing the dialogue. We can always be like, oh yeah, that, and just find a way to fit it in. Because we could talk about things like this forever and ever, we could spend the rest of this month just discussing this on the stream, but we need to start the next step and begin the scene and dialogue. But we can 100% consider this at the same time as doing that. Hi, I'm new. Hi, Nameless Hero. Welcome. How are you doing? Thank you very much for that follow. How are you doing today? I found my people have dad jokes. You like dad jokes. I apologise in advance if I don't get jokes, guys. I'm not very good at understanding jokes, but I like them. So let's say they're going from Lakefall through the forest to Test Village. Oh, I love it, Test Village. That might only be 2 days or so, but most traders don't go for such small distance. There might be 5 or 6 towns, villages along the route, and the route would connect two large cities, the start and end points, the barrels would be on for the entire time. Oh, okay. So you're saying there's probably a larger city along the way that is their main destination, and the farm village that perhaps, you know, Rose is from is more, it's one of the nearby small little places, but there's another that they would be carrying on. I guess that's a question, because I'd say that Carol has spent most of her life in the Everbloom Forest, or maybe not. She was born in the Everbloom Forest. We know that she was conceived there because that's where the spell was cast. And she's in the Everbloom Forest now as well. When episode 1 has begun, she is in the Everbloom Forest again. But maybe between those 6 months and now, she's been, you know, all the way over to that other city and come back, you know, because we do know the hero was a stowaway, so maybe he was from one of the cities further out. Maybe he was from one of the really far out cities on the trade route, and he got in Carol at that point much later on. And well, and we know she got hijacked, but I'm assuming she would have been put on another cart at some point and taken along on another trade route. I guess it's thinking about the aftermath of the hijacking as well and what happened then, but the flashback would probably end at the point that Carol has rolled out the barrel and the family have gone. I assume we'd see Carol grieving a bit about her loss, and then it would cut. The aftermath of the hijacking might be a bit of a mystery, but I'd assume, you know, people might not care too much because people get killed by monsters anyway a lot, and bandits in this kind of setting. So it would probably get forgotten about, and other trade routes would just carry on as normal. I think there's probably a little bit of fear in the people because they're like, what's going on? Why are the animals coming? Why are trees coming to life? Why are fruits coming to life? And why is the bandit attacks more often? But things would just carry on as normal, I imagine, overall. And the hero, who knows what town or city the hero was from, but at some point he gets in Carol during one of the trade route journeys, and that's where the game begins. But it was definitely a pretty long journey, we gather from that bit of dialogue there. So, see you tomorrow. Stay safe, have a good dinner. Thank you, Zex, have an awesome day, and thanks for hanging out and for all your ideas. I'm going to copy and paste what you said again, because I think it's cool. And I think we've sorted most things. I think the main things I'm wondering about after today's stream are about the distribution to the random population with the raindrops, and like I said, maybe there was a solution for that I forgot about, so I've got to rethink that or try and remember what we had before, and once I remember I'll discuss it with you guys so we can make sure that plot hole is sorted. Even though I don't think it's a big deal if we don't question it, I still think it would be cool if we did, because it's bothering me having a potential plot hole. And the other thing is Rose, what is the story behind Rose being on the cart? Just maybe having that fleshed out a bit more. And it's not exactly important right now, the reasons Rose is on the cart, because it's not relevant to what's going on in this particular plot for Carol, what Rose is doing. Carol doesn't give a damn from Carol's perspective what Rose is doing, but maybe later on in the story we will find out what is going on with Rose and get a bit more insight into why she was on that cart and what she's been doing before and things, because she would definitely have her own quest line as well. But it's not like it's the end of the world if we don't have that fleshed out right now for this particular flashback. Hey Big Luck here, how you guys doing? Hi True Baldy, how you doing? So good to see you. And Liquid as well. It's not a plot hole, it's a mystery. Yeah, I think it all depends. It's just because it's such a big part of the world, the economy and things like it being a currency, and the fact that it's got this special element X in it that we haven't named yet. we've gone to all this trouble about having these special containers that hold that element, and it's the whole reason for why Carol's sentient and stuff. It just feels because of that, all the effort we've put into coming up with this little bit with the black boxes, that we need to make it make sense, because otherwise what was the point in having special containers? You know what I mean? I hope I'm making sense. I just feel like at the moment it's only 80% like fleshed out, and because we've gone to all the trouble, it feels like we might as well complete it and make it make sense. But we'll see. It's not really a big deal. I'm sure it's something that we can answer quite easily once we get our heads around it. And I think it's been mentioned in today's stream probably, but because of my melted brain, I've not thought about it much. But I am going to reread the notes, so don't you worry, guys. The second to the last line of Rose's backstory says she attacks people now. Maybe she smelled the blood, attacked the hijackers, she got subdued, and the last thing Carol saw of Rose was her being taken captive. So Carol thinks Rose was a prisoner. When Carol sees Rose again, she realises the vamp must have escaped. Carol assumes that wherever she escaped from is where the other barrels are. Okay, so right, this is interesting, and I'm going to copy and paste this as well, Zexy, because I do like the idea of Rose getting involved in having a bit of a fight, you know, with the hijackers, showing a bit of a badass side in the flashback. But would this be another route? Like, if she wasn't on the cart, would this be if she was just somebody wandering? Because I also did really like the idea of her being on the cart, and when you said Elvira is like, oh, that thing has been acting like a beast for the past week, can't even speak. That part I liked the idea of Rose being on the cart, because it gets a bit of a chance to make the player aware of some of the fact that barrels are shy around humans, and then they start talking about her being more like a beast, so it shows that they realise that Rose is a beast. I do like that bit, but I also like the idea of her getting involved in the fight with the hijackers as well. But I've got to read that more as well, just so I could take it all in. This would be if she wasn't on the cart, though, you could find a way to merge them. Yeah, I think because I'm attached now to the idea of like the barrels getting all shy when they see Rose, but then realising that she's feral over the days of travelling. I mean, maybe we could even set the flashback up so it shows that days are passing. Like, it's like week 1, week 2, or week 3, and there's all these little charming entertaining conversations going on each of the weeks. We can do it like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be everything just in one short space of time of a few minutes, and that could work. But we can merge them too. We can definitely have it so Rose is more involved in the hijacking scene as well. Maybe she wants to help. She sees that Carol's fell, and she wants to do her part and try and defend the cart. So she hops off, but maybe she fails and the hijacker grabs her and puts her back on the cart. I mean, there's a chance we could always do that if we just want to get Rose a bit more involved on it. And yeah, when Carol sees Rose again, she realises the vampire must have escaped. Yeah, I think at this point, when Rose joins the party and Carol confronts her, she's like, oh, so you escaped? Where are my family? That's what Carol's thinking at that point. And she just wants to know. All that's going through Carol's head is, where did they get taken? What happened next? Are they okay? And that's why she orders Rose to do a painting for her when they see the easel, because she's like, if you can just communicate to me via painting, we might be able to find where they are. Yeah, maybe at first they only talk when they think she's asleep, and gradually they test the waters by talking around Rose when she's actually awake. Yeah, I think it would be quite interesting if we make the flashback be, because we could show how long the trade route has generally been. It doesn't even have to be weeks. It could be day 1, day 2, day 3. It doesn't have to be week 1. We could do it in days, and it can show by day 3 they've realised Rose is feral. They're only shy on day 1, and then maybe day 3, that is when the hijacking happens as well. And we'd have got super attached to them at that point, because they would have been loads of conversation. So that's going to be the next changing part, guys. I'm gonna have to be saying my goodbyes, aren't I? But tomorrow it's going to be a dialogue stream, so warning you in advance. We're gonna, as a chat, as a team, we're gonna think of a really good way to put this scene together dialogue wise. We generally do the dialogue before we start the cutscene, so we won't be doing any cutscene organisation in RPG Maker until we've got like a plan like this done. So we'll get the dialogue boxes planned out, all the conversation organised, how it all goes, and then once we're happy with it and we're like, this is a really cool scene, we can start putting the scene together in RPG Maker. But that might be more towards the end of the week. So I'd say tomorrow's stream, let's see how much dialogue we can get done tomorrow. I'd really like to hopefully get quite a lot done. But if we don't complete it, we'll carry that on Wednesday. And maybe hopefully Thursday we can begin the scene. If it goes well. If we get the the scene sorted. But we've already got some ideas. I've got some notes about... We've got notes about the oil drum that Meryl's dating. We will introduce the characters' personalities with dialogue, and I'm excited, but it's definitely going to be a challenge to get it all put together. But I'm sure we'll do it. We'll do it, guys. So if that sort of thing gets you hyped, dialogue, and tomorrow's stream to be here for. Don't worry about making sense. Magic loses its magic when it becomes science. This would be, she wasn't on the cart, though you could find a way to, oh yeah, I've already read that. Okay, goodbye for real fam. Goodbye, Rose. Thank you for the stream. Take care, guys. I am going to have to rush off today. It's like 6:10. I don't usually go on for this long, so I'm going to have to rush off. Can't do a host or anything today just because my dinner is ready. But take care. I'll see you all tomorrow, same time, and dialogue. So see you then, and thanks for all your feedback today, everybody. Appreciate you all.